booktube, it's Becky from Becky Writes, this is Becky Reads, and this is my May wrap-up video. May was an interesting reading month for me. I felt like it was super slumpy, but I managed to read 9 books, so it wasn't that bad. It just sort of felt really slumpy. Like, I don't feel like I did much reading, I don't feel like I did much writing, I just sort of feel like I was very meh. Now this video is going to be brought to you in 3 parts, and part 1 is audiobooks. I read 4 audiobooks in the month of May. One of them was awesome, the other 3 were not. The first audiobook I finished was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I loved this. I did spoiler free review of this, which I'll make sure is linked down below and in the card symbol. I thought this was great. It was 5 out of 5 stars. This is not a comedy memoir. It's a very real, not just coming of age, but kind of memoir of growing up in the apartheid and post-apartheid South Africa where things were really terrible for people of color. And he does it with so much heart and so much soul and great accents. And if you like audiobooks and you like Trevor Noah and you're interested in the apartheid, this is a great audiobook. 5 out of 5 stars. Check it out. Then I read Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling. You guys, I wanted to love this. I wanted to love Mindy Kaling. I wanted to love this audiobook. I wanted to love this so much, but I didn't. I initially gave it 2.75 stars, and I honestly think it's really more of a 2.5 stars. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was very meh. I thought she came off as terribly shallow and not interesting, and I just didn't see any humor in this. This was so bland. So that was a definite miss for me. Then I read The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl by Issa. This was recommended to me by a couple of booktubers and by a friend of mine named Nicole. She loves Issa Rae. I was hoping to love Issa Rae, and it was another miss. I did give this 3 out of 5 stars, but I just don't think that this audiobook was written for me. I did not get a lot of the cultural references. I'm not a part of hip-hop culture, and so I think some of the humor that was implicit in some of the hip-hop references was just not something I picked up on. I didn't find it particularly moving. I mean, some of the stuff about being Senegalese and talking about her dad and her mom was really touching, and so those chapters I really liked, but so much of it just didn't resonate with me. I also thought the audiobook delivery was really blah. For someone who's an actress who has her own YouTube show, her delivery as an audiobook was so flat, which surprised me so much. This one wasn't for me. I didn't like it. I did give it 3 out of 5 stars because, like I said, there were some chapters that I did sort of feel connected to her as a writer, but like beyond that, her whole talking about like crash dieting and stuff, I'm not here for that. Like I'm 100% not here for that, and both Mindy Kaling and Issa Rae started their books with talking about crash diets and crap like that. I'm not here for that nonsense. It makes the women sound really shallow and it frustrates the crap out of me, so this was a miss. Finally, I read Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling because y'all promised that it was gonna be better than the first book, and you lied. I did give it 3 out of 5 stars because some of the first chapters I thought were really strong. I did laugh. I did really get into some of her comedy, but then like halfway through, it completely fell apart for me. Her whole weird alternative life as a Latin teacher was dumb and I hated it. And there was just a lot of shallowness that frustrated me because I don't think Mindy Kaling is as shallow as she portrays herself. That was the character I was getting, was this shallow, vapid, not terribly funny woman, and it frustrated me a lot. I will say I really appreciated her chapter on entitlement and how when you work hard, you're entitled to feel good about yourself, and how you don't just get famous or you don't just succeed by wanting to. You have to work really hard at it, and I appreciated that. And if I could just lift that chapter out of the book and like package it all by itself, I would have loved it. But so much of the rest of the book felt really insubstantial and not funny, like not that funny. So I think her brand of humor and like what she's getting at is not my jam. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I've officially done with Mindy Kaling. I'm not gonna try any more of her books. I'm not gonna watch her shows. I gave it the good college try, and not for me. Not for me. Part 2 of this audiobook is physical books that I read, and I read one, and that was Between Heaven and Mirth, Why Joy, Humor, and Laughter Are at the Heart of a Spiritual Life by James Martin. I started this at the beginning of the month while I was on retreat and finished it at the end of the month, and this is just a really cute, sweet, fun look at joy and humor in the religious life. Now, this says it's for all different religious and spiritual people, but you don't have to be Christian, but that's a lie. This relies heavily on the Christian theology and the Christian story. I mean, the writer is a Catholic priest, so you need to be on Team Jesus or like really open to Team Jesus to get a lot out of this book. I really got a lot out of this. It has 3 different sections that look at scripture and where the joy and the humor are. It has a ton of jokes, like every chapter has at least 1 or 2 really funny jokes that are written in here. It has a dissection of theologies of laughter and joy and saints who talked about laughter and joy, and kind of an argument for why we need laughter and joy and why we don't need to focus just on the suffering of Jesus or the suffering aspects of our religion. As someone who is religious, I just found this really refreshing and a really good read at a good time. The world is a hard place and it can be really hard to hold on to your joy, and this was a good read to remind me of what makes life joyful and how even in the midst of all the terrible stuff you can have joy, and that joy isn't happiness. There's something different there. I enjoyed this and gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Part 3 of my wrap up is comics. I read 4 comic bind-ups this month, all while I was flying back from Georgia to California, and all of them were amazing. So what can I say? It was a good comic month for me. The first comic I finished was Faith Volume 2, California Scheming. This series follows Faith Herbert, a sort of new superhero who is a fat woman who is finding her way as she's left her team of superheroes to make her way in LA. I really enjoyed this. I love how it deals with her weight, how she doesn't actually have any anxiety around her fatness, she just is fat and that's how it is, and there's nothing shameful about that, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that she has a very attractive boyfriend and there is no oh my god, in spite of your weight you're attracted to him. No. They're just happily dating and there's no discussion of her weight getting in the way or impacting their relationship at all. If you're curious about the artwork, here is what some of it looks like. It's very cartoony and very typical hero comic book stuff. Now, I'm not really a big fan of superheroes, but I really enjoy this. This has a lot of nerd stuff in here. One of the main storylines is about going to your first con, and there's lots of references to Sailor Moon and Star Wars and D&D, and it's just basically a nerd person's dream comic, and so it has a lot of really strong things going for it. But there is one thing that I think this comic does not do well, and that is diversity. Faith is a blonde white chick, which I think is fine, right? They're dealing with weight, and so having a blonde white chick deal with weight I think is an acceptable thing. But her boyfriend is blonde, and the movie star guy that she's kind of interested in is a blonde white guy, and I'm just really over all the blonde white people kind of being the main characters. There are side characters of color, but no main characters of color, and that is a huge drawback for this comic. So I'm hoping, as they have decided to make more issues, it was supposed to be a one-off, but they're gonna continue the series because it was so popular. So I'm hoping as they do that, they really develop the characters of color and make them stronger and more important. But aside from that, it's really fun. It's hilarious. It's just, I love this. I love Faith. So if you're interested in superhero comics, this is a good one to check out. Then I read volumes 5 and 6 of the Lumberjanes. Volume 5, Band Together, is the last volume in which we see Noelle Stevenson as, I think, the head writer and creative director, and they actually changed some of the artwork in this one, and I didn't actually love the change. I think the new head art person is from Adventure Time, and so they changed the artwork to look like this for 3 of the 4 issues in this one, and I just did not prefer that. I don't like that art style, and I don't like that they changed it. They continue the change in art style for volume 6, Sink or Swim, and again, here is what some of that art looks like. So the artwork is a little bit different, and I don't love the change. I really got attached to the characters the way we saw them in the first 4 volumes, but you know, artists change, things change. I've accepted, we're moving on. Now, I will say with volumes 5 and 6, because there's a new head writer, the stories do change a little bit and they get really heavy-handed with the morality. There's a whole thing about friendship and listening and taking other people's needs seriously in this volume, and then there's this whole thing about working together and making good on your promises in this volume, and the morality is kind of hitting you over the head. So I gave both of these 4 out of 5 stars, but they were not 5-star reads. They wanted to teach you a lesson, and instead of doing it subtly like they'd done in the first 4 volumes, it was like, here is the lesson, and then they bashed you overhead with the lesson, and that was kind of ridiculous. I do appreciate that the character of Mal continues to call out the ridiculousness of this crazy magical summer camp, and how can there be an electric rock band under the ocean and things like that. I really appreciated it. The humor was spot on. I'm still gonna keep reading them. I'm excited for the 7th volume to come out in December. And again, both of these were 4 out of 5 stars. And the 9th and final thing that I read this month was Monstress Volume 1 by Silent Takeda and Marjorie Lieu. Holy macaroni and cheese, y'all. Holy macaroni and cheese. This was amazing. The artwork in here is incredible. It's this really interesting Art Deco style that isn't quite anime, but it's definitely not like superhero comic. It's unique and it's beautiful, and if you are a fan of comics for the art quality, this bind up is thebomb.com. Like, I can't even tell you how much I loved this. As I was reading it, I could completely see it being turned into a film. It, for me, was like a video in my brain. It was so well done. This is a really high fantasy series in which you have a world that is populated by humans and arcanics are like a human hybrid that often have animal qualities. If you have read the Laini Taylor series, The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, they're kind of like chimera, just with more human qualities. Arcanics also have access to magic, and that magic literally lives inside their bodies, and humans can only access the magic by consuming their bodies. So you can see the problem we have set up there, right? Right. I'm not gonna say anything more about it other than our main character, Mikado, I think is how you say her name. She is 17, she doesn't have a lot of her memories, and she's looking for the answers about how and why her mother was murdered. That kicks off the story, and we are thrown into a very complicated and complex high fantasy world. So if you are a fan of high fantasy a la like Lord of the Rings, or if you are a fan of urban fantasy like The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, this comic series is going to speak to you. It is so good. It's so richly imagined. I love it. There's a strong female character, there's a diverse cast, there's magic, there's this complex world, there are cats that teach you history. Like, what else do you want in a comic bind-up? I don't know, because everything I want is right here. So that is it. These are the books that I finished in the month of May. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite books of the month are. I have a tie for two, Born a Crime and Monstress Volume 1, because of course, they were my only two 5-star reads and I loved them both. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!